Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. My face is itching, sorry. I have some fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. The itch couldn't wait. Today we'll be working on patriotic farmhouse style home decor, so let's get started with project number 1. Well, and kind of number 2. So what I'm doing, just making my own pattern, folding a piece of copy paper in half, and kind of figuring out what height I want. And I'm going to go about 7 inches in height. So of course I'm going to cut off that extra. What I want to do is make like a top of a hat. And so I'm just going to use my paper cutter and kind of slant a cut on the right side. And then I'll fold that in half, that paper, so I can, get the exact same cut on the other side and cut that off. Perfect, and then I've got a hat here, obviously, so no free pattern for you. I just explained how to do it. Now I want to figure out the brim of my hat, and I'm thinking I want to go about a couple inches out from the width of the hat there, which you can see is 3 3/4. I'll freeze it in a little bit so you can see the width of everything I've done, the measurements, in case you want to do the exact same. And I'm using my little school compass thingy here, and I'm going to try that circle first. It's too big, and so the third time in I finally got my circle size I wanted. I just kept going over till, try number 3, and I got it correct. And then of course once I get that size and I'm happy with it, I'm going to cut that pattern out. This is going to be really cute, and this is actually kind of project 1A, and we'll do project 1B in a moment. All right, so here's my measurements. The diameter of the hat is about 7 inches. The hat itself is about 7 inches tall, 3 3/4 inches at the bottom, and 5.5 inches at the top. For the fabric of the hat, on the brim, I'm going to use this striped fabric from Walmart. I'm going to cut 2 of those. And on the hat itself, I have this machine quilted bedding I picked up at Amazon for like $30 for a king size. I'm going to cut 2 of those. So here's that cut out on the hat. I'm not cutting out extra batting for that. It's got plenty for what I need in the hat, but I did cut out 2 circles of batting for the brim itself. That's optional if you want to cut that out, but I thought it would kind of fit in with the quiltedness of the top. So if you're a gluer and you cut out batting, you can glue those together and then set it aside. And then on the hat, you could go around and glue around the outer perimeter and just leave that bottom portion open for stuffing. I, of course, am going to take my hat to the sewing machine, and just like the gluers, I'm going to sew around 3 sides, leaving that bottom edge open for stuffing. I just think this turns out so super cute. I love the whole ensemble when it's done. I can't wait for you to see it all. All right, once that's done, you're going to stuff your hat. Nice and easy, right? Stuff it as full as you want it. I go pretty tight and I go pretty full. I'm just that way whenever I stuff anything, pillows or anything like that. So, you do you and your stuffing. All right, now once we get that stuffed, we're going to work on our hat brim again. I'm folding just one piece in quarters so I can find my center. All right, I'm going to mark it with the Sharpie marker so my eyes can see it, and then set that aside for a minute. I'm going to cut a couple of slits in the bottom of the hat, and then back to the brim of the hat. I'm going to use this, I think it's about a 2-inch diameter circle. I'm just going to draw a circle from that point that I marked because I want to cut that out on one part of the brim only. You can see the other one's laying, in the upper left corner. Don't cut that one, just one half of the brim only. All right, and then we're going to take our hat and stuff it through the brim. And I'm stuffing it through the brim so it's about 1 inch into that brim, I guess you could say, and then using my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue and gluing each of the sections down. And I don't want to sit and hold the glue. Glue takes about a minute to set up, so I'm just going to pin each section down. And don't worry, those pins will come out pretty easy after the glue is set. All right, so get my pins in, I let it set, and in comes Bella to join us as we take our pins out. You'll see how easy the pins come out. I do get a lot of questions from you guys what kind of breed that Bella is. She is a ragdoll, and it's a Torty Lynx ragdoll, a little bit of a mix in there. So super pretty, super soft fur. All right, once that's done, you're going to add glue. Those of you gluers, you can see how much I'm adding, and you're going to glue your 2 brim pieces together. I'm leaving about 1 inch around the perimeter so that I could sew around that to add that detailing in so it matches the top of the hat. And make sure, I go in later, make sure, number one, you match your stripes if you do a stripe. And I do go in later and I glue that batting down a little bit better because you want to make sure that, you know, you don't have your pieces open. Make sure all your batting and your fabric pieces are all glued together really well. Again, I'm gluing, oh my gosh, I am sewing around the perimeter here. And then I'm going to go in and sew right up close around the perimeter of the hat area as well, just in case any of that shows. It doesn't really, my next step, we put a strip around the bottom of the hat, and I do kind of fold it down onto the hat a little bit so it does cover that up, but I thought just in case, you know, it'll look finished and complete there. All right, here's what that looks like. See the inner circle and then of course that outer circle if you're sewers. So our next, this is some fabric. Again, I got at Walmart. I'm going to kind of measure how big I need it, overlapping it a little bit. And then, of course, if you're a gluer, I'm going to rip that edge off. And then if you're a gluer, you can go ahead and glue that on. I'm going to sew around it to add detailing so it goes in with the rest of my hat. And this is what that looks like. I did just a double sewing. I wasn't trying to be neat about it. In fact, I will sew crooked on purpose, just to make it fun. And then I'm going to go ahead and get that glued on. Again, that bottom edge of the strip, I'm kind of laying onto the brim of the hat a little bit to cover up that sewing. But like I said, if any of that showed, you know, I'm okay. It'll look all right. All right, here's what we've got so far. Looking cute. I know it. Let's go on with a little more detail. Set that aside. So I've got 3 wood pieces here. I've got a dowel, of course. I've got a wood star. These come with craftingwithkimber.com, and a little spool. I'll have the link down below for that. And a little spool, 25 cents, found at a thrift store. To cut the dowel, I'm using dog nail clippers from Dollar Tree. They work great. I know mine, it didn't seem to snap really good. It was because mine are getting dull. I need to get a new pair. I've had them a while. I'm taking Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water, and I'm just staining up our spool here. Now, this spool is actually, you know, part B of this project number 1 here today. And then I'm taking Dixie Belle drop cloth, Dixie Belle paint in the color drop cloth, and just lightly painting up the dowel. I don't want it to look perfect, you know, I want it to look rustic, so just one quick little wash of it. And then of course I will come in and paint the star. I'll be using the same star in a larger size in our next project as well. So again, I will have that link listed down below for you along with the sizes I've used in my description box. And then once everything's dry, I'm just going to kind of distress up the star here. And then I will come in and distress up our spool. Oh, this project's going to be so cute. I can't wait till you see it all together. Once this is done, we're going to go into making a little flag for our hat. And so this is just some ripped muslin material. It's about 2.5 inches by 5. I'm going to fold it in half, and then I cut a little piece of batting here, go in with the quilted look the rest of the hat for the front, and then a little square piece of fabric I ripped for the front as well. If you're a gluer, you can just glue all of this together and then take this and glue it anywhere you want onto your dowel. And I say that because I'm going to put mine down just a little bit, as you see here. Now I'm going to take mine and sew around the outer perimeter of the big piece and then onto the little piece. So here's what that looks like. At the last minute, I decided to kind of, you know, I sewed everything with this strip open. And then at the last minute, I decided to sew kind of right next to the fold so I can just slide it onto the dowel. That's why my flag is kind of in 2 pieces, but that's okay because now the sewing of the back of where I sewed that colored piece on the front doesn't show on the very back of the flag as I'm gluing it together here, if that makes any sense. All right, so I slide it onto my dowel. Now I'm going to slide it down, add a little glue onto the dowel, and then slide my flag up. It's ready to go. I'm going to leave a little bit of dowel at the top showing, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue my painted star onto the front of that. Perfect, and I'm set that aside for a minute. Now I've got about a 1.5 inch ripped strip of muslin, and probably about 24 inches long. I'm just tying a bow. It's going to be longer than I need, but, you know, I always want to have extra. I rather rip off, you know, extra material if I don't need it. And now I'm going to bring in some decorative Excelsior I get at Joann's. First off, though, I'm going to glue my flag kind of slanted to the right side onto my hat. All right, and we're using the Excelsior to kind of cover, that's what it looks like, to kind of cover down at the bottom so that you don't see that, you know, we've glued the dowel to the hat. Does that make sense? Just kind of cover that up, finish it off. And now I'm gluing my muslin made into a bow down at the bottom of that, so that covers it up even more. And then I am going to go ahead and kind of wrinkle and crinkle around the sides of the hat here and just kind of spot glue the tails of that bow into place. I've already ripped off any excess. It was too long. Got it to the tails to the length I need. And then I'm just kind of, like I said, wrinkling and crinkling it up and spot gluing it into place so it looks really cute. And then I've got a piece of crochet trim here from Dollar Tree. I just tied a little knot in the center. I'm going to glue that down into the middle of the bow as well. And then I've got a little rusty bell here I'm going to glue into the center of that. And I do add a little bit more Excelsior off camera, kind of in that area right underneath the bell there. I thought it needed just a little more Excelsior. All right, now we're going to take our spool here. I am going to add a cute little flag in there. You don't have to. The hole is there. Why not? So we're going to kind of do the same process we just did with the flag we made. But first, I've got a couple pieces of ripped muslin here, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and it's in 2 pieces only because I had a scrap and I was ripping and using the scrap piece. But if you want, you can rip it into one long piece, probably about 24 inches long. And then, of course, you see me, I'm just gluing one piece onto here. And then before I glue the other piece on, so it's about 12, 14 inches there, I have taken my clickable stamps I get from Michael's. I'll have the link down below for you. I've spelled out Sweet Land of Liberty. I'm using my VersaFine ink, and I'm just going to stamp on this piece of fabric about 4 times. I know that one didn't come out as dark, but wait, I'm going to be a little bit talented here in a minute. This will look like, you know, we've stamped it on the whole spool of ribbon, but we didn't really. So I took my stamp apart, and now look, I'm coming in. I'm like, I hope I can do it. I hope I can do it. And I did. It didn't stamp double, you know, so it looked like it was double image. Here comes the L. I'm so proud. There it is. Did it. Now I'm going to take this and glue the remainder of this onto the spool. And then I'm just going to kind of tip it down a little bit and spot glue it right there. So it looks like our ribbon is kind of hanging off our spool a little bit, right? Perfect. Just like that. And we'll set it aside. This is going to look so cute. I love it. Now we're going to make our flag. So I've got the remainder of the dowel that I used on the other flag, right? And then I've got some fabric again, cut, doing it just like we did the first one. A little rectangular piece, probably 2 by 5, and a little 2-inch square here with some batting underneath it. I've sewed around the edges, just like I did on the first one. This one, though, I didn't sew next to the fold. I left it open. And then I'm ripping another little piece. It's like a 1 by 1 inch square, and I'm using the clickable stamps again and stamping USA, and I will sew that on there as well. Those of you that are gluers, you can just glue this whole ensemble together. And then I'm just taking my vintage photo ink, and I'm inking this one versus the other one where we kind of painted it. And here's what my whole USA looks like together. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue my dowel at a slant because our hole in the spool, not slanted, so I want it to look like my flag is hanging out slanted, right? And then I'll go ahead, once that dowel's in my slanted position, I will glue our flag to itself, because remember we have front and back, glue it to itself. And then I'm not going to glue this into the top of the spool because it fits tight enough. It's perfect. That makes this project complete, and we'll take a look at the final results at the end of the video. Let's move on with project number 2. For this project, I've got all these fabrics out here that I'm not sure at this point what I'm going to be using. And these 2 wood slats from Dollar Tree, these are the like 12-inch long wood slats. I end up only using like 3 colors on the flag itself, but I pulled all of these out. They came from JubileeFabrics.com. They're in like the oatmeal color section. And then I've got some muslin from Walmart. And then this is a shower curtain I found at a garage. So I love the texture, the embroidery on it, the little bit of crochet trim. So I'm going to try and cut it where I get a little bit of that crochet trim and stuff on it as well. I'm going to use that part for the star area. This is going to be a neutral colored flag. Not meant in any way to be disrespectful toward the flag. I was raised in a military family. I will stand and salute that flag anytime I get a chance. But, you know, sometimes it's fun to, you know, have a little fun and make it a little bit more farmhousey. Those of you that maybe like a neutral color palette, that's what I thought I'd do. So I figured out the length of my slats from Dollar Tree, trying to figure out how wide I want my strips. And they're about 1.5 inches wide. You can see I'm just ripping them down the fabric. The length of these is about 21 inches, but when I look at it, I almost think it could go 18 or 19 inches. So no, it's not 7 7 red stripes and 6 white stripes. We have a lot less stripes here. The darker colors are meant to be the red stripes, of course, and I will have to overlap these a little bit onto our board since it's shorter. You could go with the longer boards that Dollar Tree has that I think are around 18 inches, but I had the 12-inch size. So we're going to make it work, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with it. And here is the piece I cut out of the shower curtain with a little bit of crochet down at the bottom to make it fun, right? And again, no disrespect to the flag since I don't have 7 red stripes and 6 white stripes. This is just meant to be a little fun. For the star, you could use this from Dollar Tree and trace it, or this from craftingwithkimber.com. It's the larger star, and you could use the actual star. I know I said in the last project I do use a bigger star here, and I do, but I trace it onto some fabric and some muslin here, and that's what I use. But you could actually, paint a wood star and glue it on there. So I'll still have that size down below for you. So yes, I do cut a little bit of batting here as well. Cut the star out with batting and fabric, cutting it out at the same time because I want it to be a little bit more puffy, a little bit more quilty for our star in the center of our fabric. All right, we're going to put all this aside for a minute. I'm going to use the Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water. That is just a pretty jar, isn't it? This is well used. And I'm going to stain the wood first, so that when I paint over it with my Dixie Belle chalk paint and I distress it off camera, you'll see that kind of dark color come up around that chalk paint. You don't have to do this, but a lot of times if I'm painting such a light color onto wood and I don't stain underneath it first, you don't really see that, difference between the paint and that light color wood. Okay, so that's why I'm staining underneath it first. And then here I am on top. I was just going to kind of do just a little bit of a whitewash, which would save you some time and you wouldn't have to sand it. But I go in like I, usually do most of the time, and I just do a nice good coat. And then I sand it to the way I like it to be. So I was going to use this side first because it was heavily sanded. But as I laid it up next to it, I'm like, no, I'm going to use the lighter sanded side. So what we're going to do, I'm going to lay the side up you don't want seen, and lay your strips onto your wood. We're going to start laying our strips down because we want to see how far we need to overlap them, right? And then I'm going to lay the fabric I'm using for the star area on there. And because what I want to do, because I'm a sewer, I want to sew around all my strips, around my star. So I want to just see how my material is all going to set on here, how far down my star is going to sit, everything like that. So, get your creative with it. Now, as I laid the top piece of wood on top, I notice it's a little bit wobbly. Even though we're going to glue it down, it's because of that white, shower curtain fabric. So I cut some extra strips to kind of take up the space around the rest of it. You don't have to do that, but I did. And then when I put it on, it's now not wobbly. I'm just saying. All right, so I'm also going to use a piece of crochet trim here from Dollar Tree. It's probably about 24 inches long. You could sandwich it between your two pieces of wood. I'm using this for a hanger. But I'm going to drill a hole in my top piece of wood and bring it through, so I'll show you that. But here's an option if you're just a gluer and want to sandwich it through and you don't have a drill or anything like that. So like I said, I'm going to sew around all my strips, around that white star area, around the star itself, just to kind of give it that fun quilted look. If you're a gluer, you can just start gluing your ensemble to your bottom piece of wood. Okay? All right, I'll be back. I'm going to sew that off camera. I'm not going to put you through that. All right, everything is sewn. Now what I'm doing is I'm marking my areas. I'm coming probably about a 1/2 inch away from each edge and in the center. So this is where I'm going to drill my hole, of course. Perfect. And of course, I choose a drill bit that is not too big, but just the right size to get that crochet trim through, but where it's not going to slide around. All right, I'm going to use a big long upholstery needle here. And I'm going to thread that crochet through the needle, and then I can use this needle to get it through the holes. And I'm going to pull it out with about, 3 inches or so, 4 inches hanging out on each side. Then I'm going to tie a knot of the crochet that's hanging out the front to, make sure it doesn't fall back through the hole. And then I'll cut off the excess. So this is how I'm doing it, and I'm going to glue it down just a little bit on the front as well, even though I know it won't come out because the knot's there, and the whole, this piece of wood will be glued to the other wood and all that kind of stuff. I'm still just going to glue down that knot. Again, your other option is when you glue all your flag pieces on your bottom piece of wood, you can just glue this crochet trim in there as well, and then glue your wood piece on top. All right, so here is my strips all sewn. And because you wanted to know, yes, I probably could have used a darker thread here because you don't really see it all that well except on the muslin material, but that's okay. Like I always say, I know I did it. Okay, so of course, now what we're doing again is I'm getting everything placed on here just like we did right at first to see how everything was going to sit. But this time I'm taking a little extra care because once it's in place, we're going to start gluing it down. So I'm just gluing it down at the top edge first to get everything into position. I do off camera kind of come down those that, the pieces that are overlapped, I glue kind of those parts together as well. And then once that's set, I could flip everything up and start gluing underneath. And yes, of course, you can use hot glue for this if you want, if you don't have a liquid fabric glue. All right. So get all that glue down there, get everything back down into position, and we'll go on to our next part here. All right, so here's my little star portion all sewed around the star. And yeah, on the white part of that fabric, you can see I sewed down further from the top because that top part's going to get covered up with the wood. And then I'm going to lay my extra little strips in here. Again, this is optional, but I just like to take up that space so there's no rocking movement at all, because that would be just like the more glue you'll have to use to fill in that space, right? That's how my brain operates. And then I've got a bunch of glue on my top wood piece, and we're going to take that, we're going to flip it and sandwich that whole area all together. The last thing I want to do, again, is optional, is I've got some extra fabric left over that I've ripped and sewed around. 2 pieces that I thought coordinated well, of course, probably about 10 inches long. And I'm just going to put them together, and up on the left side of that crochet trim, I'm just going to tie them in, right around that trim, a little half knot here because it's not a full knot, just to give it a little something something. You can if you want. It's there for you if you like that idea. That makes this project complete. So I hope you enjoyed these crafts today. Unfortunately, it's going to be the last of the patriotic crafts for the year 2024. I love making patriotic crafts, and maybe it's because, like I said earlier, I was raised in a military family. I respect the flag. I stand for the flag. I will honor the flag. That's all there is to it. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which project you want to make right now. Give this video a thumbs up. And by the way, I was in a little bit of a rush trying to get these projects done for you, but I think on that spool it would be so cool to make it like gihugic. You would probably have to print the words out onto, fabric using your printer if you wanted to make it gihugic, but I think it would be a fun thing to try. I don't know, I might have to try something like that for fall or Christmas. What do you think? Leave me that in your comments below as well. If you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. Now before I go, as usual, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. In your time of need or wanting help, your first thought should be to allow your heart to turn to God. Don't give the enemy a foothold in your life trying to get you out of your situation without God. It can be very simple and easy to try and fix it yourself or rely on others to help you. Now, it's not to say that God doesn't send help through others, but they should not be your only source of making it through. God knows your situation and knows what needs to happen to bring you out of the valley. It must always and continually be your first thought to turn to God. You must lay down your own desires for help and trust in God to help you, because where does your help come from? It comes from the Lord. As you seek God for help, prayer is the beginning thing to turn your eyes upon Jesus. Lean into Him and trust Him. When you trust in God consistently, you begin to experience life in His security, which is unmovable and unshakable. God will give you His security in the form of His trustworthiness and faithfulness over and over. He will provide you time and time again with His promises to never harm you, to give you a hope and a future. He will always be faithful to carry you through whatever you are currently facing. He will keep you safe. His word proclaims it, but your heart must absolutely trust and accept in His ability to provide for you. In the Bible, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 24 through 26, it says, "When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Have no fear of sudden disaster or of ruin that overtakes the wicked, for the Lord will be at your side and will keep your foot from being snared." So allow your heart to turn to God and trust that He has all things under control. Hold steadfast to God and allow His mercy, grace, and peace to surround you. Do not fear, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Psalms 4:8. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.